Good morning and a warm welcome to This Week in Shirts, a new Monday morning show where I will be breaking down the latest stories in the football shirt world. It could be new kits, new deals that are announced with brands, or even stories in the community. We'll be talking about those today, and this will be a slightly shorter show and stream than we typically have here at Phil's Corner, but there will be space for questions as well. So at the end of the stream, which will only be about 10 minutes hopefully or so, do feel free to ask any questions. You can chuck them in the chat, whether that's on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube, or indeed through Twitter or X. You can join through the chat facilities there. But without further ado, let's talk about what I think was the biggest story last week. And that was the new Adidas third shirt collection. By that I mean the new Arsenal, Real Madrid, Juventus, Manchester United and Bayern Munich third shirts. A big story last week. These kits created a lot of buzz and there was a lot of positive reaction to these kits. And it's fair to say that I think Adidas, by and large, really were quite successful with this collection, and there's a few interesting things about it. Of course, the big thing which many people focused on, quite rightly so, was the trefoil. You can see the trefoil, which is the old Adidas logo on each of the kits. Many people for a number of years have been calling for the return of this logo, this iconic Adidas logo, which has largely been off football kits for quite a few years. Though we have still seen it, particularly in lifestyle collections and things like that. Adidas have brought it back just for this small collection. And this is a very interesting group of third kits because it's an example of what I would call top-down design. That is a brand very much steering or directing the design direction of a set of kits. Typically, for brands of all sizes, you'll see designs which are led from a club perspective. That is, that they'll take aspects of a team, of a city a team is from, maybe a kit from a club's past, and reinterpret it and very much use the brand to steer the decision behind the design. But this is an example of top-down design, which is very much, you can see the brand's influence. Each of these kits, though of course they possess elements of the individual team's identity, whether that's the colours, whether that's some of the design elements. Each of them could essentially really have come from, many different eras. These aren't an obvious callback or anything like that, but they possess some vaguely nostalgic details, retro details, whilst not necessarily being remakes. And I think as a collection, it's largely quite successful. We saw other collections like this, other collections like this in the past. And this reminds you very much of a collection that Adidas's rivals, Nike, brought in 2019. You may remember these kits, so it's 5 years now, which makes me feel a bit old. But you can see here, each of the third kits for Nike's top teams at the time, most notably the Roma shirt here, which of course many people absolutely adored. I think many people had this shirt, if not at the top of their list of the best kits of 2019-20. It was certainly up there, what many people would consider a modern classic. But other shirts like the Inter shirt were very popular amongst some people. I personally thought the Chelsea shirt was great as well. But this is another example again of this kind of top-down design approach, or this kind of unified design approach. Many brands do take this approach with third kits, and I think it's a great space to do that. So I think with, again, Adidas's latest collection here, there's a lot to like. There's a lot to kind of enjoy. And obviously, again, with the Nike shirts here from 2019, we had the Futura logo, the old logo. So there's something to be said about that. We'll see many new kits make use of retro crests. So again, a really, I would say, quite successful launch. Clearly, the positive reaction to the new Adidas kits, I think, really exemplifies that people are yearning for some of these nostalgic elements. But not just that. I think as a collection, there are a lot of things to enjoy. A lot of the details which are part of the fabric of the shirt here are quite successful. If you want to hear more thoughts on my kits, you can check out my latest stream previous to this of the Hot Wall. That was our show, our tier list, our tier ranking show, which I ranked each of these kits individually on my big tier list for the year. Briefly as well, I want to mention taping, and this is quite exciting that you can see I've actually lost the image. So there we go. You can see here one thing which a couple of years ago we saw with Adidas's World Cup kits was a return to sleeve taping, and that was quite exciting. Sleeve taping being the 3 stripes on the shoulder and or sleeves of the kit actually being material which is stitched on as a panel with these raised elements, rather than just simply a heat transfer or like a plastic application or something like that. And that was exciting in 2022 when the World Cup kits came out. Sadly, Adidas didn't roll that out across the board. I was kind of hoping they would. And indeed, when some of the new home and away shirts came out this year, it appeared that Adidas were sticking with the simple heat transfer, which wasn't as quality as style. The visuals weren't necessarily bad, but I think certainly from a quality perspective and a durability perspective, it was a step down from the return to taping, which was teased in 2022. But excitingly, Adidas seemed to be bringing this back again, albeit in limited quantities. So notably, the recent MLS Archive collection featured sleeve taping on the stripes for the authentic or player spec player issue level shirts. And it seems to be the case with the third shirts here. And this isn't the best picture, but you can just about see underneath the 3 stripes here. There's this kind of underside level, which indeed is in the red here. And again, I could have got a better picture here, but essentially the headline here is that sleeve taping has returned for these circuits. Hopefully we'll see Adidas push this a little bit further. It would be great to see this rolled out across more of their top spec kits, and indeed, of course, in an ideal world would see this at the retail level as well. The replica level, I should say, for shirts. We will wait to see what their plan is, but certainly I think it's a significant boost to these kits, and they already were quite smart. And again, actually the Manchester United one is my personal pick of the bunch. The other big story, or the other big kind of broad umbrella to talk about, was of course the new kits that we saw in competitive games for the first time. Indeed, with the launch of a number of leagues across Europe, including the Premier League, Senyera, La Liga, they all kicked off this past couple of days, this past weekend. I just want to give a quick shout out briefly to Torino. I thought this shirt looks really nice on pitch, and this is a shirt like many, of course, in the current game, which is based on an old kit, that being the 1991 Torino away. But I thought this looks really smart actually on pitch. The collar and the design, which again very much lifted from that old kit. Other kits I quite liked. I must say, the more I see the Liverpool kit, the Liverpool home kit, the more I'm really warm into it. Even though the collar isn't quite to my taste, still I think that shirt did look quite good. And I even quite like the Aston Villa away shirt, a very simple design from Adidas. But I think that partnership is going to bear a lot of good fruit. But the other big story which caught my eye was that Barcelona have worn their 2022 fourth kit, or special edition kit, their Senyera kit, for another season. And again, this is now the 3rd consecutive season that Barca have used this shirt for at least one competitive fixture, with one small tweak. The eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that the Spotify logo has been updated now to just have the round element as opposed to the Spotify wordmark in addition. But this is really interesting, and it's something which Barcelona have done before. You may remember the previous Senyera design, which had this kind of like almost like a claw mark design across the front in the red on the yellow base. Indeed, that was used for multiple seasons as well. I believe that was actually carried on from the 2019 season through to 2021. So again, for 3 years, if I've got my maths right. So I would expect Barcelona to potentially update this or have another Senyera kit. The Senyera being the flag, which is very distinctive with the yellow and the thin red stripes. So quite interesting to see Barcelona wear this kit. Of course, we don't know exactly when and if they will wear this again this season, but I would certainly expect them to. But again, quite interesting to see that. Very rare to see that in the game. And I think, largely speaking, there's been a lot of calls, of course, in the industry for teams to keep kits for multiple seasons. And I think the more likely direction of travel is that we keep getting at least 3 new kits a season for big teams, but that we do see potentially some of these special edition kits which either are quite deeply rooted to the club's history, like we do have with this particular Barcelona kit, or if they're particularly popular with fans and clubs ultimately can make more money out of it, then I would not be surprised to see some of these kind of one-off kits that we sometimes see being used for multiple seasons. In an ideal world, again, it would be great if teams did actually keep some of the kits longer, because as fans and collectors, that would be a positive. But nonetheless, very interesting to see this from Barcelona. And another big story in the new kit world was that of Venezia, and indeed the much rumoured, much talked about partnership that the club have with Nocta. Now, Nocta are a sub-brand of Nike. Think something like Jordan. And indeed, this collaboration is very interesting with Venezia. And there was a very interesting story which was published across a number of platforms. But indeed, I particularly noted a Soccer Bible article which was quoting GQ. And there was a quote from... So Nocta, to quickly backtrack, Nocta are fronted by Drake. And indeed, he's kind of the symbol, the front man of the brand. And Drake's chief brand officer, Matt Babel, speaking to GQ, actually talked about how that partnership came about. It was very interesting that actually this wasn't just a new thing. It certainly, from the kind of outside perspective, looked like Nocta had swooped in off the back of the relatively short but very notable partnership that Venezia have just had with Kappa. But it turns out, even actually this time last year, heading into the 2023 season, in short, one of Venezia's co-owners, Brad Katsuyama, reached out to Matt Babel, Drake's chief brand officer, and essentially reached out asking for help financially, because despite Venezia's very exciting few years when they'd been promoted previously to Serie A, off the back of a number of really kind of good press, a lot of good press around their kits, of course, especially. The long and short was that Venezia needed money. They needed tens of millions of pounds in a matter of weeks. And again, I would encourage you to go and read more if you're interested in this story, but I thought it was very interesting. Again, Soccer Bible carried this as well as some other platforms. Essentially, Drake and his people helped save Venezia from going bankrupt. So, very interesting story. What of the kits? Of course, that's what we're here to talk about. If we look at this particular shirt, there were some leaks earlier on, and this pattern, which you can see, which I think is quite smart. It looks to be, you can see these kind of star elements, which very much lifted from the Nocta logo. Quite an attractive pattern, I must say. And I did find it quite funny that we have this kind of taping, or this kind of piping to give a sort of taping shape and effect, which is a very Kappa thing. So quite funny to see off the back of the Kappa contract. I'm personally not a big fan of the one button, and I don't really like this neckline, this collar style. But, I think as a shirt, there's certainly a lot of nice elements. Venezia have been popular for a number of reasons, but I think the colours, the baseline Venezia shirts do have a lot about them, even though Kappa maybe did get a little bit too unusual for my personal taste in recent years. But very interesting to see that, of course, Venezia wore that in their opener against Lazio. But those are, again, the big stories they want to talk about. As a quick recap, Adidas third kits. A lot will be said about these shirts. Looking forward to see them on the pitch. And indeed, I think as collectors, they will certainly draw a lot of attention. I think from a technology perspective, it's really good to see Adidas putting their full weight behind this. And hopefully this is a sign, particularly, as I say, from a taping perspective, of things to come. And also, there's a lot to be said about this kind of top-down design approach. I think there's a lot of success to be found here when brands execute it well, like I think Adidas have done here, and indeed Nike did in 2019. It doesn't always go well, and it does require, again, a lot of things to fall in place, but ultimately I think we can take note of what brands are doing here, what they're trialing, and it is certainly something which I'll be excited to see more of going forward. And then from a new kit perspective, I really like Torino. I wanted to shout that one out. But also very notable to see Barcelona in their Senyera kit. And again, expect to see that for a couple more games this season. And then, of course, we have Venezia as well, one of a number of new kits, and particularly this new partnership, which is very interesting, how that came about. And given all the success and the interest we saw around the Jordan PSG partnership, it's no surprise to see other sub-brands like Nocta getting involved. That is a train which is not going to stop any time soon. Those are the stories that caught my eye, and thank you for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, if you want to see this continue, please let me know in the comments. That would be much appreciated. And of course, leave a like as well if you enjoyed the content today. And we are not going anywhere. Not only do we have this stream, hopefully continuing on Monday mornings, but Tuesday evenings you can join us as we browse through eBay to take a look at the latest deals that we can try and snipe on eBay. But we also have the Hot Wall on Thursday afternoon, so 3 regular weekly live streams in the coming weeks. And indeed, I'll also be recording main Phil's Corner episodes. That's pre-recorded episodes, and the next one of those is also in the pipeline. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. If you're heading to work, maybe on your commute, have a great day at work. And indeed, I'll speak to many of you, I'm sure, in the week. Take care and all the best.